Hi guys, and welcome to A Dog's Soul, an empath's guide to your dog's feelings. Today we're going to talk about territorial leash reactivity. So, a dog who goes bonkers when he sees other dogs or people only in his own neighborhood. So stay tuned and have fun. Alright, so we talked about leash reactivity a lot, and now I have received a request for this very special topic because there are dogs who react more intensely in their own neighborhood, and there are also dogs who react only in their neighborhood. It's fine when the owners drive somewhere and walk there. Every other dog is fine, every other person is fine. But when they walk in their own neighborhood, the dog suddenly is completely different. Every dog gets barked at, even people get barked at or growled at, or the dog is lunging all the time, or the dog is pulling all the time. And this only happens in their own neighborhood. So let's look at reasons. They can be very different for every dog, and no dog is the same, so we can talk more about tendencies than about definite reasons. And tendency number one would be fear. Again, fear is the most common reason behind aggressive behavior, behind leash reactivity, and when we are talking about a dog who is only reactive in the neighborhood, if there is fear involved, and it almost always is, it can be either the dog is too afraid somewhere else, so he doesn't react because he's too afraid to react, and in the neighborhood he is still afraid of other dogs, but it's not as bad, and that's why he is showing his discomfort. He feels safe enough to show the discomfort. Another thing with fear could be that we see territorial motivation. And territorial aggression is nothing else than resource guarding. The dog is resource guarding his living space or his living area, whatever you want to call it. And that's why he's acting out. And another thing that can happen, of course, is the dog connected some kind of event with the neighborhood. So something happened in the neighborhood and that was traumatic for the dog, and so this neighborhood feels more unsafe when there is another dog around. Another thing could be that the owner is actually more tense. Very often, when we have a history of reactive behaviors, we as owners are, of course, more tense, and often this happens especially in the neighborhood because we don't want our neighbors to think badly about us or to gossip about us, right? And it's more embarrassing when you know the people than when you don't know the people. And that's often why even when the training shows real success, the tension is still there in the human, in the home environment, in the neighborhood. And that's why we have to train specifically in the neighborhood as well. Sure, if we have a dog who reacts everywhere but is worse in the neighborhood, I'd start with somewhere that's easier for the dog to get a foot in the door and to start implementing techniques and all those things. Also, to get the human going, and we have to get used to those new things as well. And of course, if we feel more relaxed, it's easier. But then we have to implement them in the neighborhood as well. And sometimes we are a little bit sloppy about that, even if we are concerned about what the neighbors might think. We sometimes don't take the time to be consistent with training in our neighborhood. Because, for example, we are about to go to work and we just want to take the dog out for a quick toilet break before we leave, and we just hurry out and we kind of are watching our watches and count the seconds until we are definitely late and we are not paying attention at the environment. And suddenly there is another dog. We could have seen that other dog, probably, but we were busy doing something else. And that's when mistakes happen. So we have to be mindful and intentional with every single walk we take, even if it's only a little potty break and we are not up for training, because training happens all the time. There are always situations we can use, or there might be situations we could use, and we have to be aware of that. And as for distance, sometimes it's a little more tricky in our home environment to get in the distance we need, because either we don't see as far, because there are a lot of corners and stuff like that, and the encounters happen more suddenly. That's difficult, and we have to train for that specifically. Also, it could be that our dogs are scanning as soon as we open the door, and that's why we would have to start training at that point the latest, right? And whenever we see our dogs being very tense whenever we walk in our neighborhood, we could also start at a point that is far away, or far away enough for our dogs to be not as tense. So we try to figure out where our dogs start to get more reactive and start training at that point. So there are quite a few options we can take, and it always depends on the dog and what's possible and how the living situation looks like. Of course, if we are living in an apartment complex, it's way more difficult than if we're living in a house. If we can carry the dog, for example, when living in an apartment complex, and we can carry the dog down to our car, and our dog is relaxed while being carried, it's way more easy than if we have a dog who can't be touched or is just too heavy to be carried, and all those things. So the more difficult the situation, the smaller the training steps, and sometimes the more creative we have to get, because what is most important in all those scenarios and in all our leash reactivity trainings, the more we can avoid our dogs reacting, the faster we see results. Because every time our dogs do something, they get better at it. And that goes for things we want to see, like walking in a relaxed way past another dog. But it also goes for going cuckoo on leash and just making the other dog go away because they lunge at him and bark at him and do all those crazy things. So you see, again, this is something that is very individual, and it's very special for every dog and every owner and every living situation. And you can either figure it out on your own, and if you're already familiar with leash reactivity training and you know how this all works, then get creative. Think about ways you can train specifically for your neighborhood and how you can tailor your training plan to fit those needs. Or you can get a professional on board, and very often this works a lot faster because we have outside eyes and we have seen a lot. And yes, every dog is different and every situation is different, but our job is to get creative. Our job is to find solutions and to tailor training methods and plans to exactly your needs. So this is definitely the more easy way to do this. And if you're up for that, go to the description, book a free call, we see how I can help and get you there faster. Because always being tense when going outside with our dogs is really no fun. And we didn't get a dog to be tense all the time. We got a dog to have fun together, right? So why don't we include that fun in training? I wish you an amazing time with your dog, and we'll see each other next time. Bye!